A very good morning to all my dear students. I know it's a weekend today and still my dedicated CA Foundation students are waiting eagerly for the class. So well done all of you who all are available with us for the CA Foundation law class today. We have already completed sale of goods 2 chapters and we are doing the third chapter, that is transfer of ownership and delivery of goods. So we will be continuing with the further syllabus. Good morning, Avni, Abhirami, Tambeshwari, Nitya, Shri, Joya, Muskan, Aditya, all of you children, Tejban, Priyanka, Pavan, Kinjal, Dheeraj, Sudhakar, and lovely comments that you have written. Ma'am, we have revised whatever we have done till now. So well done. Give yourself a patting from my side. I'm so happy that you have revised along with what we have done. Miss Sahana, Pavan, Kinjal, Tejban, Shraddha, Tuba, Vipin, Parul, Humaira, Pinjari, Tapaswini, Pavan, Parul. Good morning, all of you children. Good morning. A very warm good morning to all of you. And I hope you are geared up to move further in this chapter. But as always, before we proceed further, we are going to have a quick revision time. And in this revision, I'm going to ask you certain questions which you yourself are going to answer me. So what is the difference between section 23, subsection 2 and section 25? Shubh Prabhat, Himanshu, Nikithana, Mr. Pavan, ma'am, no weekends for CA aspirants. Okay, is it so? But when we are studying on weekends, we should be happy about that as well, Mr. Pavan. Miss Parul says, this is my first class. All right, welcome. Sejal, Vimal, Chahat, all of you. Good morning, children. Yes, ready. Anush Kumar says, yes, ma'am, we are ready. So here goes your first question for your revision is, what is the difference between section 23, subsection 2 and section 25? Is there any difference? Regarding sections, I'm asking, I understand my students are not supposed to learn sections for CA Foundation, but still we have revised certain content which puts a thin line of difference between these two sections. You can name them, what it basically means. The difference is that the seller and the owner in subsection 2, buyer is the owner. Okay, Miss Nishi Girk, you have written it very specifically, but I would want you to name what kind of appropriation of goods it is. So one, under section 23, subsection 2, we have done is the conditional appropriation of goods or unconditional. What is section 23, subsection 2? Section 23, subsection 2 talks about the unconditional appropriation of goods. Excellent. Very good. And what does that mean? Chetan, Kinjal, Ravina, Juhi, all of you, those have given the correct answer. What does it mean? Unconditional means seller is not reserving the right to disposal. It is your choice, the buyer, Mr. Buyer, whichever way you want to use the goods, please use them freely. I am not having any right on these goods. Once I have given it to the carrier, transporter, you have the sole ownership now. You are responsible for the goods. Fair enough. So what was section 25? Was it talking about conditional appropriation? Yes, ma'am. Section 25 specifically spoke about conditional appropriation of goods. Now, what is that conditional? See, I've removed sections from my presentation also so that you don't get confused. But again, certain sections makes the things very, very clear for us. So section 25 specifically talks about reserving the right to disposal of the goods. Means here I'm trying to tell the buyer that, look, I am the seller. Unless and until you not make my payment or your bill of exchange or check is not cleared, you will not get the goods. So I tell the transporter, I'm reserving my right to dispose. It means I have my right on the goods. Very good, Anuza. Mr. Biswas, Sanya, Sejal, Rajendra, Anuj, Vikash, Sudhakar, Neha, Nanda, all of those who have given the correct answer, well done. That means you have revised it very nicely. So good, unconditional and conditional appropriation हमें बिल्कुल clear है. Now we can move ahead. So what is the meaning of section 26, children? Quickly, you have to answer me without cheating from the presentation or the books. What does this mean that risk prima facie passes with the property? Those who have just joined right now, we are just revising what we have done last time. So quick revision of what is the meaning of section 26. Was there any exceptions? Was there any condition to be fulfilled while passing of property? Hurry up, answer me. Yes, the Paswini, you have written the correct answer, but You should have, there should not be any kind of charges. Nishi Garg, what are you trying to ask? What does it mean that the condition of charges? Are you talking about expenses? Conditional appropriations. Anuj Kumar, conditional is when section 25 is applicable. That means I have imposed a condition. I'm reserving my right to dispose the goods. Yes, now I'm waiting for the answers for section 26. What does section 26 talks about? Yes, Anil Yadav, that's correct. But please never write like this in the exam. You have to be very specific. Who do mistake is not the correct word to use. Who is at fault is a better word. Risk follows ownership. Wonderful. Whosoever is the owner is one who has the goods. Okay. Risk is with the person who has got the goods. Very nice answers. Great, Juhi. Abhirami. Very nice. Anuj, Muskan, Ansh, Anil Yadav, Sakshi, Aditya, Siddharth, Madhur. Mr. Suresh, answer me this one. Once we have completed chapter 3, you will get all the notes of chapter 3 also on the portal. Chapter 1 and 2 are already over there on the website. Ravina says something which is visible. So that is the meaning of prima facie. I have asked you what is section 26. So section 26 tells you that what is visible, that whosoever is the owner of the goods will be liable for the risk for that goods. And my dear student, you forgot to mention about the exceptions. You forgot to mention about the rules, what we have done under section 26. One person has written correctly. When the delivery is delayed, whosoever is at the fault will be liable to bear the risk if you make a default in collecting the goods. And what was the role of bailee? Answer me. Who is a bailee? What is the role of a bailee? Shubham Sharma, Dheeraj, Mr. Nanda R, Siddhakar, Joy Banek. Good. Correct answers, everyone. See, so this is how a weekend becomes interesting when my CA Foundation students send me answers. You make us feel proud, and we are super proud of a student that they're studying so well, they're revising their contents. And the moment teacher asks you, we're so thankful to ICAI that we are so much connected through this technology that I quickly get your answers also. So well done, taking care of the goods as bailee, somebody's writing. So bailee is the one who is supposed to take care of the goods, even if the goods are lying in his possession. It is not his responsibility to destroy the goods. He should be very careful the way he has been dealing with his own goods. He should take care of the other person's goods as well. So testing of your knowledge was completely done. We have done that also, and a quick revision has been given. Now let's move to a fresh new topic for today's session, that is section 27, transferring of the title of the goods. Okay, Ms. Shah, that's great. Very nice. Okay, very nice. Good, all those who have answered for this one. Two conditions also Mr. Siddharth has mentioned. Very nice. So what do you mean by title of the goods? So title means ownership. So I have been telling you from last few sessions that you can sell the goods only if you're the owner of the goods. So let's come up with a quick example before we proceed with this section further. A sold the goods to Mr. B. Now A sold the goods to Mr. B. Who becomes the owner? Quickly answer me. A is the owner, B is the owner. When A sell the goods to Mr. B, Mr. Bikash, we have already done all the MCQs in the previous class, and today we'll be doing MCQs only after the end of the class. Anush Kumar, great. Ownership. Title is ownership. That's wonderful. But who is the owner? When A sell the goods to B, B becomes the owner. Excellent. All of you are right by saying that when the goods have been sold, B becomes the owner. Now, children, when B becomes the owner, he can freely sell the goods to Mr. C, D, whomsoever he wants, right? This is what we have done. Now, B has the freedom to sell the goods to anyone. B can further sell the goods to C, B can further sell the goods to D, whomsoever he wants. This is what we have understood. Good. सबने ठीक लिखा है. अच्छा, अब second example number 1, A sold the goods to B. Second example, A sold goods to B, but goods are still with A and he has made an agreement to sell with B. Now, who is the owner, my dear children? And why? A sold the goods to B and the goods is still with A. He has made an agreement to sell with B at a later date. Now, who is the owner and why? This is the second situation. Thank you, Miss Vedahi Gohil. She has specifically joined the session to say thanks for clearing CA Foundation. Congratulations and wishing you all the best. Thank you for saying that we help to make law easy and fun for you. Great. Anand Sahu, Sanya Nishi, Miss Sahana, excellent. Now A is the owner. Very good students. Why? What was the reason? Because this is the case of agreement to sell. So in agreement to sell, I have not said yet sold you the goods. Ownership is to be passed at a later date. So Mr. Yogesh Kumar is saying A is the owner because he has the possession of the goods and the goods are to be passed. The possession will be given at a later date and it is a case of agreement to sell. Simple. It is a case of agreement to sell. So A remains the owner. Now, can B sell these goods? No, ma'am. Unless B doesn't become the owner, he can't sell the goods. यही पढ़ा था, यही समझा था हमने. B cannot sell the goods, ma'am, because he is not yet the owner. A is the owner. So he can only sell the goods. So today I'm going to tell you certain exceptions to this rule of ownership. A is the owner, he can sell the goods, everybody is clear. In the first example, B was the owner. Why he was the owner and why he could sell the goods? Because contract of sale was complete. Everybody has answered it nicely. Good. Now, what is the twist is that the goods are sold by the person who is not the owner and does not have the authority or the consent. Buyer does not get a good title. Simple. If A has sold the goods in agreement to sell, as A and A is only the owner, B cannot sell the goods. And this Mr. C will not get a valid title if agar मैं बोलूं agreement to sell में B sold the goods to C. So B don't have the goods only and he is not the owner. How can you sell someone else's goods? So let's take another example. You borrowed the study material from me for studying and now you sold my study material to somebody else. You cannot do that. I am the owner. I only have the right to sell my book to someone else. Or you borrowed my mobile phone for certain work and then you sold it further. Not acceptable. So section 27 is going to tell you how the ownership gets transferred. Only the person who is the owner of the goods, जो उन goods का मालिक है, वही वो goods बेच सकता है. Otherwise, जिसको भी आपने goods बेचे हैं, उसको ownership नहीं मिलेगी, good title नहीं मिलेगा. यही हमने implied condition as to title में भी पढ़ा था. क्या होता है implied condition as to title में? If A sold the goods to B and C is the true owner, then what will happen? True owner will come and take the goods back from B and B will go back from A, the seller, and he will recover the prize money. Remember implied condition as to title? This was the case, absolutely. False title will make it void. Very good. Ansh, Renuka, Muskan, Siddharth, Pranjal, all of you good children. Parul, very nice. So, ट्रांसफर ऑफ टाइटल में अब हम सेक्शन 27 में क्या देखेंगे. सेक्शन 27 आपको एक्सेप्शंस बताएगा. लॉ में बेटा जब भी रूल बनता है ना तो आपको एक्सेप्शंस दे दी जाती हैं सो दैट द रूल which has been made should not be misused. Now it has specifically told you that no one can nemo that quod non habet. If you read in the study material, there is a Latin maxim word which has been given under law, which means that no one can give what he does not have. I ordered for basmati rice from ABC store. I have not received the rice yet. Can I sell them further? I need to receive it. I need to pay for it. I become the owner. Then only I can sell the rice further. Absolutely clear. But today I'm going to tell you 8 interesting cases where you can sell the goods even if you're not the owner. So what is the meaning of exceptions? Exception means the cases exceptions to transfer of title means the cases where you can sell the goods even if you are not the owner of the goods. So what does rule says? Rule under section 27 says you cannot sell the goods. Please keep writing these short notes. These are very helpful, children. The moment you open your study material, अपने हाथ से अगर हमने छोटे छोटे नोट्स लिखे होते हैं ना स्टडी मटेरियल के लिए साथ में, कभी नहीं भूलता आपको और बहुत इजी बना देता है वो आपकी स्टडी। तो प्लीज साथ में शॉर्ट नोट्स में अपनी हैंडराइटिंग में लिख लिया करो। स्टडी में ये सब लिखा हुआ है बट अपने हाथ से लिख लेते हैं, कलर्ड पेन्स यूज करते हैं, अंडरलाइनिंग करते हैं, हाईलाइटर यूज करते हैं, बुक्स बिकम इंटरेस्टिंग। Have to fall in love with your subject, and these are the little tips which help you to love your subject. You cannot sell the goods unless you are the owner. However, exceptions to this rule means the cases where you can sell the goods even if you are not the owner. क्लियर हो गया? सबको क्लियर हो गया हम सेक्शन 27 में क्या पढ़ने जा रहे हैं? डोंट कीप ऑन कंफ्यूजिंग योरसेल्फ, मैम बट वी आर नॉट द ओनर, हाउ कैन वी सेल? बिकॉज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द एक्सेप्शंस. Sometimes buyer is having the goods even without having the ownership, then also he's going to sell the goods. Sometimes seller is having somebody else's goods, buyer is the owner, then also he quickly sell the goods. ये कैसे हो सकता है? ये मैजिक कैसे हो रहा है? Section 727 will tell you in different 7-8 cases where you're not the owner, then also you can sell the goods. Let us see how. So one by one, all these case laws and discussions we're going to do from the study material. So you all can open your study material along with me, and we are going to read all these cases from there. So let us open the first case law. I think I've not shared my screen. Yes. So this is the case, transfer of title by non-owners. Non-owners means when you're not the owner of the goods and you're still selling the goods. So section 27 to 30 will tell you who are the cases where you can sell the goods. But before that, example number 13 and 14 are very interesting. Let us read it. If A sells some stolen goods to B. Stolen means theft करा, चोरी करी आपने, चुराए, ज्वेलरी शॉप में गए, आपने नेकलेस चुरा लिया and B को बेच दिया. B buys in good faith. गुड फेथ का मतलब क्या है? अभी गुड फेथ वर्ड बार बार आएगा. इसका मतलब होता है ट्रस्ट. हिंदी में अगर कोई लिखना चाहता है तो विश्वास, भरोसा. आपने भरोसा करा दुकानदार पे कि हाँ यार तू ही ओनर है तो मुझे गुड्स बेच रहा है. गुड फेथ, ट्रस्ट करना. B is buying in good faith, then also B will not get any title to it because true owner, the jeweler, will come and he will take his goods back. ऐसा ही होता है. Example number 13, you can write down the case of implied condition as to title. Yes ma'am or no ma'am? जल्दी से बताओ मुझे. Example 13 is talking about the implied condition as to title. Yes ma'am or no ma'am? Everybody is clear for this? Good. Yes ma'am. It is true. It becomes implied condition. True owner will come and take the goods. Example number 14. What is example number 14? Example number 14 is talking about the hire purchase agreement. Hire purchase agreement में क्या होता है? आप बताओ मुझे. When do you become the owner? In case of hire purchase agreement, my dear children, when do you become the owner? A question for all of you. Today you are going to answer and you are going to teach the class. I'm just going to raise questions to all of you. Let me judge how well my students have understood their previous concepts. All those who have done yes for the implied condition, for example 13, well done. Superb. Example number 14. What is the meaning of hire purchase? When does the buyer becomes the owner? In case of hire purchase, my question to all of you. P, the hirer of vehicle under an hire purchase agreement, sells them to Q. So P is the hirer. He has taken the goods on hire purchase. Shubham says when you pay all the installments, Joy Banik, Akansha, Chetan, Monu, Anuj, Juhi, Dev Kumari, Tambeshwari, Anusa, Ravina, Mutyani, Kinjal, Aditya. Great. Unless and until you have not paid the last installment, you don't become the owner. So well done, my students. So that means P is the hirer in this case. Now this example will become very, very easy for you. P is the hirer means he has purchased the vehicle under hire purchase agreement. He has to finish off with his installments. We generally call it higher charges over here because बच्चे installment तो हमने sale by installment भी पढ़ा था ना. So हमने हायर परचेज में हायर परचेज इंस्टॉलमेंट्स पे करनी. So now he is selling the goods to Q. Q through a bona fide purchaser will not get the title. Why? Because he is only getting the rights of the hirer. And who is a hirer? Hirer is acting as a bailee. He is not the owner. Hirer is just acting as a bailee. So now this Q is also acting as a bailee. Unless and until you have not made all the installments, you do not become the owner. अब ये क्यों बताना चाह रहा है आपको हायर परचेज में क्यों लेकर आया मैम ये तो हम पढ़ चुके थे ना यहाँ स्पेसिफिकली क्यों लिखा है इसने हमें कंफ्यूज करने के लिए अभी तक तो बड़ा मजा आ रहा है क्योंकि मैम बता रही है आप आंसर कर रहे हो तो समझ आ रहा है इम्प्लाइड कंडीशन एज टू टाइटल हो गया तो हमें समझ आ गया ओनर नहीं बेच सकता हायर परचेज का केस आ गया तो हायर परचेज पे हायर पे चीजें ली हैं तो आप नहीं बेच सकते तो जो अब हम केसेस करेंगे ना उन 7 केसेस में आप सेल कर सकते हो. But in case of hire purchase, unless and until you have not made the payment, Mr. Hemant and Mr. Shubham, bona fide का meaning अभी हम करेंगे, तो you will understand. Wait. Sakshi, Kinjal, Renuka, your answers were correct. Well done. So hire purchase की case में, unless and until you have not become the owner, you cannot sell the goods further. Now, this innocent buyers may be put to loss in certain cases. Therefore, certain exceptions has been given. Now, what was happening under hire purchase? This Q had to suffer a lot. You sold him the vehicle, but he does not become the owner. तो वो कहता है भाई उसकी क्या गलती है? You sold the stolen tractor to Mr. B. B was becoming the owner, but again true owner came and took back the tractor. You sold the stolen jewelry to somebody else and it does not become the owner. तो innocent buyer मतलब जिसने ये इस विश्वास से खरीदा है कि आप ओनर हो उसको बोलते हैं इनोसेंट बायर बोनाफाइड गुड फेथ ट्रस्ट विश्वास बोनाफाइड भी वही मीनिंग लेकर आएगा अभी हम आगे पढ़े सो वो कह रहा है कि सेक्शन 27 ने कहा ऐसे तो लोगों को बड़ा नुकसान होने लग गया ये पता करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो गया कि आप ओनर हैं या नहीं इसलिए कुछ एक्सेप्शनल केसेस लॉ ने बना दिए कि दैट मींस अगर इन 7 कैटेगरीज में कोई भी सेलर बायर को गुड्स बेचेगा तो बायर विल गेट अ गुड टाइटल एंड व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ गुड टाइटल मींस बायर विल गेट ओनरशिप ऑफ द गुड्स इफ ही फॉल्स अंडर दीज एक्सेप्शंस क्लियर हो गया नाउ लेट अस सी द एक्सेप्शंस वन बाय वन So here a non-owner can also, now examiner's favorite question, many a time he gives you 6 marks straight away question. What are the cases where the non-owner can pass the title? Number 1 ये question आ सकता है. Or he can tell you, write down the rules and provisions of transfer of title by non-owners. ये बोल सकता है. Or he can tell you, nemo dat non-cohabit, which means that no one can give what he has not got. What does this mean? This rule means does it has certain exceptions explain तो ऐसे 3-4 तरीके से आ सकता है एंड स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन आता है मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इसमें से एंड आपको स्टोरी लिखनी है जो हम पढ़ने जा रहे हैं नंबर 1 सेल बाय अ मर्केंटाइल एजेंट हु इज अ मर्केंटाइल एजेंट डेफिनेशंस रिवीजन हु इज अ मर्केंटाइल एजेंट Mr. Femin Jindani has come to tell ICAI over here that he has got 64 marks in law. Proud of you, Mr. Femin. Congratulations. Mr. S. Sudhakar, please ask what you have not understood. Ms. Shivani Kumari, you can ask your doubts over here. Section 27. Abhay Jain, what you did not understand in Section 27? Mr. S. Sudhakar, Section 27 specifically tells you that you can sell the goods only if you are the owner. And if you're not the owner, you cannot sell the goods to another buyer. Even if you sell without being the owner, the buyer will not get the ownership. Is that clear? Who is a mercantile agent? Very good. All those who have written is a one who can sell the goods on behalf of the seller. He has the right to sell the goods, consign the goods, and he can even pledge the goods to raise money for the purpose of business. So, ma'am, you only told us mercantile agent can sell the goods. I told you that time also, even if he's not the owner, then also he can sell the goods. Now you have to remember the conditions to be satisfied while he sell the goods to the buyer. Number one condition is, now these conditions, when these conditions will get satisfied, then only the mercantile agent can sell the goods. So let's take an example. Mr. A, who is residing in Bombay, wants to open up an office in Pune also. But he find it very difficult to commute from Bombay to Pune. So he appointed Mr. B as a mercantile agent who is going to sell the goods on behalf of Mr. A. Now, always this agent is acting on behalf of his seller. So when this agent is acting on behalf of the seller, what happened was that he is in the possession of the goods. Now, this Mr. B has been given the right by Mr. A. Mr. A is the seller in this case. So the person sitting in the Bombay, Mr. A is a seller, and Mr. B in Pune has been appointed as an agent. Now, Mr. B will send him the goods. He said, okay, these are my goods. Please sell them further to the buyer. Now, my question to you is the agent owner of the goods? No, ma'am, he is not the owner. Can he still sell the goods to buyer? Yes, ma'am, he can sell the goods to the buyer because this falls into section 27, exceptional to the rule of non-owner. But three conditions needs to be satisfied to make B eligible to sell the goods to the buyer. Those conditions are, he means B over here. If B is in the possession of the goods with the consent of the owner, owner is over here A. Has B taken the goods in possession with the consent? Yes, ma'am. He has not stolen the goods. He has taken the goods from the dealer in Bombay, Mr. A, with his consent. Sale was made in the ordinary course of business. Is he doing business and selling the goods to the buyer? Yes, ma'am. He is doing business and selling the goods to the buyer. Is the buyer acting in good faith? Trust. Buyer is trusting him to be the agent. Yes, ma'am. He's trusting him to be the agent. And the last point which bothers the student is the fourth point. Fourth point is no notice of the fact that seller had no authority to sell. Now, this buyer who has come to purchase the goods from the agent, Mr. B, he is assuming B to be the owner of the goods. He has no information that he is the agent, he is not the owner, and he does not have the authority to sell. Buyer को ऐसा कुछ भी notice नहीं है, ऐसा कुछ भी information नहीं. The buyer who is buying the goods is trusting Mr. B to be the true owner, and all the conditions are satisfied. He is holding the goods with the consent of the true owner, that is seller. He has the goods, he can sell them in the ordinary course of business, and the buyer is acting in good faith. If all these conditions are satisfied, then yes, B can sell the goods to the buyer and pass on the valid title. This is not what you and me are saying. This is what is written under section 27. Provision to section 27 specifically tells you that the buyer should be acting in good faith. Buyer को भरोसा होना चाहिए कि आपकी इस goods के मालिक हैं. तो हिंदी में जानना चाहते थे. I hope now it's clear. So the buyer has the confidence that you are the owner and you're going to sell. Another example of this line, no notice of the fact that seller had no authority to sell. Sometimes what happen is the seller sells the letter to the agent that now your agencyship has been withdrawn. Now you don't have any right to sell. So none of such notice has been given. He has the full authority to sell the goods, and buyer is also believing that he is the owner, and that's how he is buying the goods from him. All right. So this is the definition of mercantile agent. You all have already written very nicely. So great. Now come to section 28. Sale by one of the joint owners. Who are the joint owners? Say, for example, we have certain property and 2-3 brothers are jointly owning that property. They are having ownership of that property. But will sale of goods applicable to property? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? Jaldi se bata do mujhe. Is sale of goods applicable to property? Mr. Amal PR, don't worry. You're studying very nicely and you're revising your concepts, then definitely you'll be able to clear your exams. Never, students, be afraid of law. You have to fall in love with this subject. Okay. If you feel that you're not able to learn it, then make a proper timetable, keep revising. Law is all about memory. So the moment you keep learning it again and again, you keep talking about it again and again, you keep writing and making notes, then it becomes very, very easy and simple for you. What did I ask you? Okay, I forgot reading your queries. Yes, no, ma'am, is the correct answer because it's an immovable property. Very good. Lakshmi, why are you saying yes, immovable property? It is not applicable. Very good, Sudhakar. S. Sudhakar, Tapaswini, Monu, Rajendra, Dev Kumar, Tejban, Ravina, Tambeshwari, all of you. Preeti, Ansh, Amod, all of you are correct. Immovable property pe sale of goods is not applicable. So let's take an example of movable goods only. Here are these three brothers who are the joint owners of television and VCR. They both are movable. Yes, ma'am. They are movable goods. You can take any example. Car, bed, washing machine, television, VCR, mobile phones, anything. Movable goods. Then only sale of goods become applicable. So these are three brothers who are jointly owning the television and VCR, and with the consent of B and C, VCR and TV was in the possession of A. First, let us read the rule. What does Section 28 says? So keep marking down points. Another way of learning law. I can't stop giving you tips in between. I know because you enjoy those tips. So ma'am has habit to keep giving you tips. Always break down the sections and points. बच्चे बहुत इजी हो जाता है पॉइंट्स में लर्न करना एंड व्हेन यू मेमोराइज इट ना यू रिमेंबर अच्छा उसमें 3 पॉइंट्स थे उसमें 4 तो फटाफट से याद आता है ऑन योर फिंगर टिप्स पढ़ना तो पड़ेगा ही देयर इज नो थंब रूल that you will just listen to the lectures and everything will just get inside. After listening to the lectures, I always tell you revise in the evening whatever we have discussed in the lectures today, not just law, whatever lectures you're attending, accounts, economics, law, every subject you should revise it. And then when you have done the second revision, when you sit down for the final revision, it becomes very, very simple for you. So let's break down into the points. Number one point over here is if one of the several joint owners, several का मतलब क्या होता है? लोग इकट्ठे joint owners. Few of the people are jointly owning the property, jointly owning the goods. So if one of the owner has the sole possession, what is the meaning of sole possession? That means now this water bottle, three of us are owning, and I only have this in my possession with the permission of other co-owners. They have permitted me, they have allowed me to keep these goods with myself. So I have taken their permission. So one of the owner is having the goods in his possession. Point number two, with the permission of the co-owners, that is correct. Point number three, property in the goods gets transferred to any person who is buying in good faith. So who is the buyer? Who is buying the goods in good faith? And this person has no notice that the seller has no authority to sell. Now, why does it says again and again seller has no authority to sell? He's saying because you are not completely the owner of this good now. Actually, you don't have any authority because he's also the owner, A is also the owner, B is also the owner, and C is also the owner. So collectively, we are the owner and collectively we can take a decision to sell the goods. But Section 28 says no, even if you have the ownership with other co-owners, but you have the goods lying in your possession with the permission of these co-owners, you can sell it to the buyer who is buying in good faith and he has no notice that the seller had no authority to sell. Isko learn kar lena is line ko as it is. The buyer at the time of contract has no notice that the seller has no authority to sell. Means उसको ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि इसके पास सेल करने की ओनरशिप नहीं है. क्यों नहीं लगता है? Because he is buying it in the good faith, in the trust of the other person. Such a sale is considered to be valid sale, so joint owners can sell the goods if these four conditions are satisfied. Now let's apply the rule number 28 to example 15. So these ABC are having the joint ownership of TV and VCR. So point number one, the TV is lying with Mr. A, sole possession. Yes, ma'am. Point number two, with the consent matlab permission lena. So B and C's consent was taken. Point number three, A sells the TV VCR to P. P is the buyer who is buying in good faith. Point number 3 is also valid. And point number 4, without the notice that A had no authority to sell, that is also clear. Therefore, P will get a good title to VCR and television. That means now P becomes the owner to this television and VCR. Is that clear? Example number 15, all of you. So even if you're the joint owners, you're not the single sole owner, then also if these 4 conditions are satisfied, you can make a valid sale to a new buyer. Now, very, very interesting question. I keep telling you sale of goods is a baby of Indian Contract Act 1872 only. We have extracted all the provisions from the Contract Act only. So here comes your small test of Indian Contract Act. Sale by a person in possession under voidable contract. What is the meaning of voidable contract, children? Tell me फटाफट से voidable contract क्या होता है? What is the meaning of voidable contract? Voidable contract, I have asked, why are you writing the definition of void contract? अभी जैन हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए बेटा, क्या नहीं समझ आया वो क्वेश्चन पूछ लो. पूरा लेक्चर हिंदी में नहीं दे सकते हैं. वी हैव स्टूडेंट्स फ्रॉम साउथ ऑल्सो, दे डू नॉट अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी, सो प्लीज कोऑपरेट. आपको जो नहीं समझ आता, आस्क मी द क्वेश्चन, आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू. Very good, all those who have given wonderful answers of voidable contract. Vipin, Anand Sahu, Mayank, Tambeshwari, Anuj, Krishna, Devkumari, Juhi, Lakshmi, Preeti, Joy Banek, Akansha, Aditya, Sakshi, Muskan, Ravina, wonderful. Mr. Chetan G, contract cannot be enforced at the option of one or the other party. It remains valid. Very good. Kinjal, Shubham, Sanya, Siddharth, excellent children. So the contract is voidable when the consent of the other party is not free. When is the consent not said to be free? Consent means that the other party should agree when we are selling him the goods. So if my consent is not free from coercion, fraud, misrepresentation, and undue influence, then the contract becomes voidable. This is what we all have studied in the previous classes also. And when the contract becomes voidable, then the other party, either they can terminate the contract, they can put an end to it, or it remains as it is. Now, what happens is, there is a case where Mr. A goes and buys a ring from Mr. B at a gun shop. When A is buying a ring from B at a gun shot, that means the consent has been taken by coercion, डरा कर, threat देकर, धमकी देकर. तो such a contract is voidable. तो बच्चों क्या A ओनर बन जाएगा? बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है यहाँ पे. A ने गन शॉट पे B से रिंग ली. पहले हिंदी में समझा देती हूँ, देन आई विल ट्रांसलेट इन इंग्लिश. A ने B से रिंग ली गन शॉट पे, एंड अब A ने ये रिंग जाकर C को बेच दी. लॉ कहता है, सेक्शन 29 कहता है कि C जो है ना, he will become the owner. Surprising, because such possession that A was having was under the voidable contract. A at a gun shop took a ring from B, and B did not take any action. B remained silent on this. Contract is voidable. What was B's duty? To put an end, to file a case, to take an action, but B did not do anything. Contract has not been resigned. It means contract has not been ended. That means this contract still holds open, valid. And A took the stolen ring and sold it to Mr. C. Now C will get a valid title, means C will get the valid ownership, because the seller A in our example was having these goods under voidable contract caused by coercion, and the contract has not resigned it until the time of sale. In such a case, whosoever buy the goods from such a seller who has taken the goods either under fraud, misrepresentation, or undue influence, he can still make a valid sale to a buyer who is buying in good faith. Is that clear? So X fraudulently, I just took an example of coercion and I hope you all would have written in your notebooks. Now example 16 is of fraud. So again, X by fraud obtain a diamond ring from B. Why? Contract becomes voidable. Yes, ma'am. Contract becomes voidable because the consent has been obtained by fraud. So contract is voidable at the option of Y means that Y can either put an end to the contract or he can just leave it like that. But he did not terminate the contract. Before the contract was terminated, before any action was taken, X further sold this ring to Z. So quickly tell me, will Z get a good title? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? Will Z get a good title? Don't get confused with the implied condition as to title. That is the case where you have sold the goods as a seller sitting in the shopkeeper. Here, the case of coercion, fraud, misrepresentation is being involved. Okay? There was the case of theft. Theft and stolen goods are different. Here, example, section 29 is talking about the voidable contracts. Very good, Madhu. Kamble, Tambeshwari, Juhi, Sakshi, Preeti, Dev, all of you, those who have written, yes, ma'am, Z will get a good title. Why? Because X has sold the goods under the voidable contract. He has taken the goods by fraud. But this is very surprisingly, voidable contract. Actually, में तो आप बोलोगे, ma'am, X ने गलती करा ना. So Y cannot recover the ring from Z, even if the contract is subsequently set aside. Means even now, if Y goes and takes an action against X and he files a case that this is what happened with me, he came to my shop by fraud, he has taken the goods, he can file an action against X, but he cannot take the goods back from Z. Because Z is an innocent buyer, na? He never knew whole story behind this. How come he know that you have not terminated the contract and it was in voidable contract? So such situation is valid only under a voidable contract. All right, section 29, everyone clear? Please break down into points and write it. Let me just first complete all these transfer of title and then I will take up your queries also. Section 30, subsection 1 and section 30, subsection 2 are very related sections. So let us quickly do these two sections. Sale by a person who has already sold the goods. So who is the person who sells the goods? Ma'am, he is the seller. Yes, ma'am, he is the seller. But he is in the possession of the goods. Now, very interesting. Section 30, subsection 1 may A, the seller is having the goods with him. In his possession means the goods are lying with the seller. So there was Mr. A who sold a nice wooden table to Mr. B. So he had a furniture shop and he sold this table to Mr. B. Sale was made. So my children know when sale is made, B becomes the owner. Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? Yes, ma'am, B becomes the owner. But the table is still lying with Mr. A. A sold table to Mr. B for rupees 10,000. But this table is still lying with Mr. A. Another buyer comes to his shop, Mr. C, buyer 2. He likes this table a lot and tells Mr. A that I will pay you 15,000. Can you sell this table to me? अब आप मुझे बताओ, कोई आपको 5,000 रुपए का लालच दे रहा है, तो आपका मन नहीं करेगा कि आप भी ये टेबल खरीद लो? लगेगा ना? I have already sold this table to Mr. B, but still that table is lying in my custody. So I got another buyer who is ready to pay 15,000 rupees. So section 30, subsection 1 gives the right to such a seller who is not the owner of the goods, but because the goods are still in his possession, he has been given the right to transfer the property to another person, even if he's not the owner, provided this Mr. C, the second buyer, is buying in good faith and he does not know that the goods have already been sold to Mr. B. He has no notice of the previous sale means that C does not know that the goods, that the food and table has already been sold by A to Mr. B. Let's break it down into points. If a person has sold the goods, so a person who has sold the goods means the seller, and he is still in the possession of the goods. Possession means uske paas hi hai goods abhi bhi. Point number 3, he can sell it to a third person. Third person means Mr. C, the second buyer. Point number 4, if the third person is buying in good faith. And point number 5, without the notice of the previous sale. Then this third person will get a good title. Although the property has been passed to the first buyer, already be owner ban gaye, but still certain things were pending. He was in the possession of the goods. The payment was yet to be made pending. Delivery has not been made. Therefore, A still can sell the goods to Mr. C. This is not what I am saying. This is section 30, subsection 1, which has given the right to the seller who already continues to hold the possession of the goods, can still sell it to the second buyer if the second buyer is buying in the good faith and has no knowledge of the previous sale. Okay. Similarly, even he can pledge these goods. A pledge or other kind of disposition by seller in possession are equally valid. So even if he wants to pledge this table and take a loan, that is also allowed to the seller, because when you continue to hold the possession of the goods, you still have the rights on these kind of goods under section 30 has been given to you. Clear? Let me complete section 30 subsection 2. Then I will give you certain time to read both of them. So during IPL matches, P buys a TV set from R. Who is the buyer? Who is the seller over here? P is the buyer and R is the seller. Seller agrees to deliver him after some days. उसने कहा ठीक है टीवी सेट ले लो, IPL मैचेस आ रहे हैं, आपको टीवी देखना है, बट कुछ दिन बाद ले जाना प्लीज, I will deliver you after some days. Meanwhile, S, a new buyer, came to his shop and he said, I'm ready to pay a higher price. And he buys in good faith without the knowledge of previous sale. Will S get a good title? Yes, ma'am. Since all the 5 conditions, seller is having the possession of the goods. Even after the goods are sold, he continues to be in possession. He's selling it to the buyer in good faith without the notice of previous sale. Therefore, the new buyer will get the good ownership and good title to the goods. Now, section 30 subsection 2 is just a reverse of 30 subsection 1. Here, the buyer is having the goods in his possession. What will happen? Let's see. If buyer has taken the possession of the goods before the property has been passed, what is the meaning of before the property has been passed? That means ownership is with the seller. Here, ownership is with the seller and possession is with the buyer. In section 30 subsection 1, it was reverse. In section 30 subsection 1, ownership was with the buyer and possession was with the seller. Ownership was with the buyer, possession was with the seller. However, 30 subsection 2 mein ownership is with the seller and possession is with the buyer. ये लिख लेना अपने notes में. Now, where the buyer with the consent, point number 1, buyer with the consent of seller take the goods. तो buyer आया उसकी शॉप में, कहता है मैं पेमेंट आपको कुछ दिन बाद करूंगा, but I'm taking these packet of chocolates to my godown. So with the consent means coercion से नहीं लिया, fraud से नहीं लिया, चोरी नहीं करा, permission से लिया. Allowed है, buyer लेकर जा सकता है. So point number 1, where the buyer with the consent means with the permission of seller has taken the goods in his custody. Point number 2, property has yet not been passed means ownership is still with the seller. Now this buyer can sell, pledge or dispose the goods to third person. Point number 4, if third person buys it in good faith. Point number 5, without the notice of lien on the goods. Now here interesting word of lien has come up. What is the meaning of lien? Children, lien means a right on the good. Okay, let me explain you the meaning of lien on the goods. These are my specs. Okay, I gave my specs to Priya for using it. These are anti-glares. She said, I want anti-glares for few hours, and I have given it to her. Again, it is a case of bailment. She is going to use it for certain purpose, and she is going to return it back to me after that. Who is the owner? Harleen ma'am is the owner. Who has the right on these goods? I have given it to Priya for certain use, and she is going to return it back to me. So this kind of a transaction where you are not giving the ownership, where you are doing a transaction of bailment, or I have sold this specs to Mr. C, and he's yet to make me the payment. So I'm still the ownership, but goods have been given to him. So that means I have a right of lien on such goods. I have right on these goods. These are my goods. Unless and until my payment is not made, इन goods के ऊपर मेरा हक है. ठीक है ना, मैं इन गुड्स को अपने कब्जे में ले सकती हूँ. लियन का मतलब ये होता है कि आई कैन टेक दीज गुड्स बैक अनलेस एंड अंटिल माय पेमेंट इज नॉट मेड. So when we go to the chapter of unpaid seller, the fourth chapter, at length we will talk about the word lien. As of now, you can simply, children, write down in your notes that lien means a right on the goods. Lien means to have a right on the goods. So if these 5 points are satisfied, then the buyer can sell the goods to a new buyer. Let's take example of Lee versus Butler. So this is a case law. जैसे मैंने आपको फर्नीचर का बताया था ना, एक केस लॉ हुआ था बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग. Furniture was delivered to B under an agreement that the price was to be paid in 2 installments. So there was Mr. A. He sold the furniture to B, and he said, okay, you can make me payments in 2 installments, 5,000 one installment and 5,000 another installment. He said, fine, I will pay you. Now the ownership is still with the seller because the payment has not been made. Furniture becomes property of B on payment of second installment. But before paying the second installment, B sold it to Mr. C. Will the buyer get a good title? Excellent. Buyer will get a good title. Why? Number one, B was having the goods with the consent of the seller. Yes, ma'am, he was having it. Was the property in the goods yet to be passed? Was seller still the owner? Yes, ma'am, he was the owner. Can he sell the goods to a third person who buys in good faith? Yes, he has done it good faith. And this third buyer is having no notice of the lien on such goods. That is, he does not know that these goods originally belong to the original seller. If all these 5 conditions are satisfied, then the new buyer will get the valid title to the goods. But again, there is a twist in the story. In case of hire purchase, you cannot do it. There is a difference between sale by installments and hire purchase. Remember? In hire purchase, it has its own features of hire purchase agreement. So where the person is under hire purchase agreement, that is not covered in this section unless it amounts to sale. Very important. Please mark this point as very, very important and write down in your own handwriting. Under hire purchase agreement, buyer cannot sell the goods unless he has paid the last installment. Under hire purchase agreement, buyer cannot sell the goods unless he has paid the last installment. That is section 30, subsection 2 is not applicable. Section 30, subsection 2 is not applicable to hire purchase agreements. Is that clear? Can I erase it? Have you written? All right. So example number 9, A took a car from B on the condition that A will pay a monthly installment of 5,000 as hire charges. Please look for such words from the examiner point of view. The word hire purchase will be written. I told you earlier also. Where monthly installments are mentioned, that is a different sale by installments. Where hire per charges or hire purchase is written with an option to purchase by payment of 1,24,000 installments. Here in such a case, you cannot pass a valid title if you have not become the owner. So what happened? A sold the car to C after paying few installments. Now B, the owner, can go and recover the car since A had neither bought the car nor he had agreed to buy the car. He only had an option to buy the car. Why hire purchase is not giving? Because here you only have an option. You remember sale on approval and return basis. There you have an option to buy. You have not actually purchased. Hire is also like that. You have taken on rent. You're paying higher charges for that. So you have not 100% confirmed that you're going to buy the goods. So we have done first 5 cases of exceptions to the rule of transfer of title. I will take a small break over here. I want you to read each and every point and all the examples from the study material, and then I'll take up your doubts and we'll move further in this chapter. Let's take a break here. All right. Welcome once again, students. Okay, so I have gone through your doubts and most of you have written crystal clear, no doubts. Tambeshwari is asking, X se paise Y le sakta hai. So in the case of voidable contract, students, how the contract happened between both parties because of coercion. So that action which the other party can take is acceptable. But here, what we are trying to understand is that when this person who has taken the contract in his hand and a voidable contract, if he has taken that ring, then if he is selling it to another person, that buyer will definitely get a good title. You cannot go and take the goods back from that buyer. Okay. Joy Banek, what if the payment has been made? In which case you're asking this example? Please quote the exact number. Yes, Sudhakar, if A is a mercantile agent, in that very case, if he's selling the goods, those 5 conditions are satisfied. He is in the possession of the goods because of seller's consent. He's acting in the ordinary course of business and buyer is buying in good faith, then he can sell the goods. Explain pledge in 30 subsection 1. Okay, Mr. Nanda R, very valid question. Second buyer is selling the goods. Miss Sana Jamdar is asking, second buyer that the good is sold, but still buyer asked to sell him even at higher price. Section 30 subsection 1 will apply. Yes, definitely. If the buyer is the owner and seller is having the possession of the goods, Miss Sana and Mr. Nanda, first of all, you have to understand that Section 30 subsection 1 can be applied only if the seller is still holding the goods. If I have already sold the goods to Mr. B and he took the goods with him, then it is not applicable. Section 30 will be applicable only when the goods are still lying with my possession. I am having the goods in my custody. All right. So now, if I am having the custody of the goods and ownership has already been given, then I can further sell it to a person who is paying the higher price. Absolutely correct. That is bilkul theek, Miss Sana. Now, somebody is asking for pledge. So now if that furniture is lying with me and I've already sold it to Mr. B buyer and I'm in need of money. So I thought that why don't I pledge this with the banker and I can take certain loan. Section 30 subsection 1 still gives you that right. Although we have studied implied warranty free from inconveniences, you cannot sell it further to someone if it is pledged. Here it is an opposite case. Here you have sold the goods, but they are in your possession, then you can pledge it. That was the case where the goods are already pledged. You cannot sell them, but you have already sold, but they are in your possession. Section 30, subsection 1, all conditions are satisfied. You can pledge the goods. Seller has been given the right. Okay. Sakshi, Miss Sakshi is asking vested means. Vested means it lies with you. Kiske paas hai wo right? So rights vested with. And Leon is absolutely good. Right on the goods. That is absolutely correct. Kinjal is asking, ma'am, case laws come in exams. So case laws never come directly in CA Foundation. But if you remember the names, you can quote it. But there are only few important case laws that you must have done in Indian contract that you need to remember. And now we will be doing few case laws in partnership and companies that you need to remember. In sale of goods, you can avoid the case laws. Miss Sejal has not understood section 30 subsection 2. She says, what is the meaning of possession before in the goods has vested in him? Vested means the possession is lying with him. So let's read 30 subsection 2 also. I hope 30 subsection 1 is now absolutely clear to everyone. Okay, as Sudhakar, I'll take up your query also, but let me just complete with 30 subsection 2. It says here, the buyer is having the goods and the ownership with seller. So I have taken the goods, I have bought the goods in my godown, but the ownership is still with the seller. He is the owner. Then if I sell the goods to somebody else, then section 30 subsection 2 will become valid. Why? Because law has given me the right that if I have taken the possession of the goods, my payment is still pending. I can still sell it to the third party, even if the lien is with the seller. Lien means the original right. Those who are confused with the word lien, please do not worry. In the next class, when we'll be starting with unpaid seller, we will be talking at length about the word lien. So don't worry, you will understand lien very clearly with the 4th chapter. All right. Mr. S. Sudhakar says in section 26, property transferred from seller to buyer, whether delivery is made or not. If suppose the goods remain in seller's possession, automatically the seller is treated as bailee. Then what is the use of section 26? Very interesting question, Mr. S. Sudhakar. Section 26 ka use is this, that it is telling you that risk prima facie passes with the ownership. Section 26 clearly tells you about that risk passes with the ownership. You are acting as a bailee is a different story, but ownership has already been transferred. Let's take a very interesting example. You are the seller, Mr. S. Sudhakar. I purchased the goods from you and I told you that I am the buyer. I became the owner and I kept my goods in your shop. Now you should act as a bailee, but it is not compulsion on you that you have the ownership. You 100% have to take care of the goods. Suppose waterlogging happened, flood came. Obviously, you will try to save your goods first. Na? You tried saving my goods also, but you could not save them. Who will bear the loss now? You or me? Me, because I am the buyer in that case. That is what section 26 tells you. All right, I hope it's clear. Mr. Vivikesh precludes का मीनिंग होता है जिसको हमने एक्सक्लूड कर दिया, निकाल दिया उसमें से. Ordinary course of business, Mr. Nanda, it means that in the normal routine business. Miss Ravina is asking the difference between example 18 and 19. Oh my God, you have to tell me the difference. Example 18 is talking about sale. Example 19 is talking about hire purchase. Please write it down. Those who don't understand. This is sale example. This is hire purchase example. In sale, buyer becomes the owner. In hire purchase, buyer does not become the owner unless last installment is paid. Mr. Rajendra Senapati, under section 30 subsection 1, first buyer can still file a case against the seller that why you did this, why you have cheated me. That is again a different story, but the second buyer will get a valid time. Same goes for you, Ms. Priti Singh. All right. Thank you so much. Now everyone has written, ma'am. Now it's crystal clear. No more doubts. So wonderful. We have cleared all the doubts also till here. Let's move ahead now to the last topic of this section 27. That is rule of estoppel. Now, do you know the meaning of estoppel? You must have heard about this word when you did contract with a minor also. Estoppel is another very, very interesting word that is used under law. Under sale of goods, you will be using the word estoppel. Same in the partnership also. When we go there, you will understand the word estoppel. Nitya Shri, what you have not understood in example 15, beta, you can ask the question. Don't ask me to explain the entire example again. Then it takes a lot of time. Example 15 is of joint ventures, joint owners. So they were jointly having the ownership in their hand, and one of the person is having the ownership with the consent of others. Then section 28 will become applicable. He can sell the goods. I hope Motiani and Prince Kumar, now section 30 subsection 2 is clear. Still, if you have doubts, write down what is your doubt. हिंदी में समझना है तो क्या समझना है, क्या पूछना है, क्लियर डाउट लिखा करो. पूरा सेक्शन बेटा अगर हम रिपीट करेंगे तो हम आगे नहीं चल पाए. Okay, so let me complete it now, and then once again at 12:55 we'll come back to the queries. Okay, good. Nitya says now it's clear. Great. Estoppel, Sanya Khan, that is what we're going to do. Estoppel means when you're not the real owner, but you're trying to act as if you're the owner. Okay, so there was, let's listen to a very interesting story. There was a person, Mr. P, who has a shop of ready-made garments. So he sells ready-made garments, coats and pants. As CS students has to wear formal dress for their interview day. So he is into this business. He sends formal coats and pants. And there was a buyer, a CS student, Mr. Q, who went to Mr. P's shop to buy this coat pant. I don't know how this drawing is, but it's okay. Now, when he went to buy this coat pant, he told him that I want to buy a ready-made garments. It is a shop to sell the coat pants. And when the buyer, Mr. Q, entered, there was a friend of Mr. P, who is Mr. R. He was present in the shop at that time. So now P is the seller, he's the owner, and R is a friend of P. ये story लिख लिया करो please कहानी. And Q कौन है? Q is the buyer. Now when Q entered my shop in Mr. P's shop, instead of P showing him the garments, R started showing him. He said, okay, you're a CA student, come here, look at this nice coat pants. It has nice fleece. The collar is very nice. You'll put this tie, it look very good on you. So R was acting as if he is the owner of this shop. R was acting and behaving with his conduct. He was trying to make you believe that he was the owner. And to this, the actual owner P remained silent. And finally, the CA student Q, he purchased the coat pant from R. Now, law says in such a case, it will be assumed if R is the real owner of the goods and the rule of estoppel will become applicable because the real owner remained silent. He did not stop Q to believe that R is not the owner, I am the owner. So once when you have remained silent, you have made the other person believe that you are the owner of the goods, then you will be considered as the real owner of the goods. Now, if any problem happens with Mr. Q, the buyer, he can quickly come and address it to R. R will be treated as the owner of such goods. Where the owner is stopped, owner कौन था इसमें? P था. Owner is stopped by the conduct from denying the seller's authority to sell. Transferee कौन है? Q will get the good title against the true owner. Before the title is made, it must be shown that true owner has actually suffered or held out as the true owner. So it has to be shown means it has to be proved. Like I tried proving you that R was showing him that these are my goods, you should buy them. They will look, all the stipulations, representations R is making over here. So in such a case, R, even if he is not the owner, he will believe to be the true owner of the goods. This is what rule of estoppel says. Now rule is clear. Let's read example number 20. A said to be a buyer in presence of C, that A is the owner of the horse. Who is the real owner of the horse in this example number 20? जल्दी बताओ मुझे. Mr. Anil Yadav, at 12:55, you remind me about this. I'll explain you how you have to do descriptive questions, okay? Yes, Mr. Ansh, that's correct. Very good, Mr. Pavan. It is partner by holding out also the same estoppel. Kinjal is saying A is the real owner. No. Who is the real owner in this line? When you read A said to be buyer in the presence of C, that A is the owner of the horse. So who is the actual owner? The actual owner of the horse is Mr. C. Write it down. Mr. C is the actual owner of the horse. Very good. Those who have written C is the real owner. Wonderful. C is the actual owner. But A is trying to say that he is the owner. And now C remains silent. हमारे वाले example में P was remaining silent. Here C remains silent even though the horse belonged to him. So B, the buyer, bought the house. So B will get a valid title even though the seller had no title to the horse. This line means even though A was not the owner, but because by his conduct he himself said this line that I'm the owner in front of the true owner, and true owner is not saying anything. Now true owner cannot interfere in between. C, by his own conduct, prevented from denying A's authority to sell the goods. C, by his own conduct means the actual owner by remaining silent. By his own conduct means by his own behavior, he has made B believe that A is the owner. Has induced B means had made him to believe. Induced, you can write down, it means he has made him to believe. He has made him to believe that A is the true owner. In such a case, he can pass in the valid title. That means now he can tell him that you have become the owner of the goods. Clear ho gaya? Fatapat se I give you 1 minute. Read the rule of estoppel. If you have any problem, please ask. B represent himself. Why is B? B is the buyer, Mr. Ansh. C is the real owner. Very good. All of you have written the correct answer. C is the real owner. Very nice. All right. So rule of estoppel is clear. Sale by an unpaid seller, which we will be covering when we go to the chapter of unpaid seller. So here we come to an end of the section. Sale under other provisions. What are these other provisions? What are these other provisions? Sale by an official receiver or liquidator, purchasing from the goods from the finder of goods, sale by pawnee. All these points reflects that even if you're not the actual seller, owner of the goods, then also you can sell the goods. So who is a finder of lost goods? Let us have revision of Indian Contract Section 169. You remember finder of lost goods? Where you have found someone's ring which was lost, you found it left lying on the road and you picked it up. Do you become the owner? No, you do not become the owner. But if the charges of giving this ring back to the true owner are much more than actually selling this ring in the market, then you can sell the ring in the market and recover the charges, and you can pay to the true owner the real charges, or you can keep it to yourself also, even if you're not the owner of the goods. All right. So now let's move ahead to performance of contract of sale of the goods, section 31 to 44, where you simply have to talk how the contract has to be performed. So we have completed almost chapter 3. This is the last topic of chapter 3 that we're going to finish it off in another half an hour's time. So before we begin that, now we have delivered the goods. We have done about how the delivery will happen in ascertained, unascertained specific goods. We have understood that only the owner can sell the goods. Now is the final day of performing the contract. That means now section 31 to 44 is going to teach you all about delivering the goods and accepting its delivery. Like we always used to talk about offer and acceptance. Here in sale of goods, we talk about delivering of the goods and accepting its delivery. So performance simply means delivering the goods and acceptance and payment of price. So we deliver you the goods, buyer and seller, seller's duty to deliver the goods, buyer is going to accept it and pay for it. That is what is the meaning of sale of contract act. Yes, ma'am. So delivery we have already done. Quickly tell me what are the 3 types of delivery? Actual delivery, symbolic delivery, and constructive delivery. So what is the duty of buyer and seller? Now, all these we will be doing as sections. All little sections we'll be reading and understanding what it actually stands out for. So it is the duty of the seller to deliver the goods and the duty of the buyer to pay for them. So if children, A is a shopkeeper and he's selling the goods to B. So he says A has the duty to deliver the goods. If A has sold the goods to B, who will deliver the goods? It is A's duty. It's not B's duty to come and take the delivery of goods. A's duty is to go and deliver the goods either by actual delivery or by symbolic delivery or by constructive delivery. I hope you remember these 3 types of delivery of goods, okay? And what is the duty of B? It is the duty of B to accept the goods and make the payment for it. It is the duty of B to accept the goods and make the payment for it. Very good, all those who have written 3 types of delivery. Excellent, Renuka. Bailey is also acting in case of founder of lost goods. Very nice. Mr. Pramod, in this Stoppel case, in that case, the person who has actually proved himself to be the true owner, he will only be held liable. Because the owner actually remains silent. Okay, now all of you move to the performance of contract. Some children are still roaming between estoppel, huh? Now, what is the meaning of payment and delivery are concurrent conditions? Quickly explain me the meaning of this word. Payment and delivery are concurrent conditions. We have done earlier that buyer and seller are complementary to each other. Now you have to tell me they are concurrent conditions. What does this line mean? Very good. It is the duty of the seller to deliver the goods, and it is the duty of the buyer to pay the price. That means they are concurrent to each other. Once the seller is ready to give the delivery, the buyer should be ready and willing to pay the goods, pay for the goods. Because we have monetary exchange of goods, it's not a barter system. A should be ready to give him the goods, and B should be ready to give him the price for such goods. The payment and delivery are going in hand to hand. I give you the goods, you give me the price. This is what is the meaning of section 32. I hope it's clear. Now, section 33 to 41 will talk about all the rules regarding delivery of goods, how the goods will get delivered. What are these rules? These are 9 to 11 rules. These are explained beautifully one by one. Each point we'll be doing. Each point is given as a separate section. Again, to my dear students, those who are asking, ma'am, हमें section learn करना है, CA foundation में section learn करना नहीं है compulsory. You can read it. But for understanding, I will be talking about sections, but it is not compulsory for you to learn the sections, because then it becomes very easy for you to grab the points. So examiner can straight away ask you a question. Please explain the points regarding rules of delivery of the goods under Sale of Goods Act. तो सारे rules लिख कर आने हैं. 4 marks का है तो 5 to 6 points लिख देना. 6 marks का है तो 9 points लिख देना. It's always better to write little more than asked for. Otherwise, these are all the rules. If he asks you all the rules, then you should write all the rules for the delivery of goods. So let's read down the rules one by one. First of all, section 33 talks about delivery. What is the meaning of delivery? When the goods are put in the possession of the buyer, either actually physically going and putting them, or giving the keys of the car, or when the warehouse guys acknowledges. Okay, let's take a quick test. When the warehouse guys acknowledges to the buyer that your goods are lying with me, what kind of delivery of goods it is? When the warehouse guy acknowledges and calls up the buyer and tells him that your goods are lying in my possession, what kind of delivery of goods it is? Very good, Mr. Nanda. It was reciprocal conditions. That's excellent. All of you have given good. Divya, Anusa, Preeti, Sana, Aditya, Anuj, Muskan, Amod. Sudhakar says he are ready to exchange the goods. Very good. Mr. Mutani is asking willing, meaning of willing. Willing means willingness. Your consent, your free consent should be there. You should be ready to do it. Thank you, Mr. Raghu Raman L from Tamil Nadu. He has come to say thanks for clearing his CA foundation, and also want to say thanks to ICAI. Thank you so much and all the best. Congratulations to you, beta. Delivery means voluntary transfer. Very good. All those who have written constructive delivery, everyone has given the correct answer. Ardhendu, why are you writing symbolic? It is constructive delivery example that I have just given you. Sambeshwari, Anusa, Pavan, Yogesh, Sakshi, Divya, Sana, Dev Kumar, Mutani, Preeti, everybody is correct. Rajendra, correct. So that is constructive delivery. Now, what is the meaning of part delivery of the goods? So there was a seller A who was to send 50 bags of rice to Mr. B, the buyer. So he loaded 10 bags of rice in one truck, 30 bags in another truck, and 10 bags in the third truck, because the capacity of the shorter truck was to only have 10 bags, and the second truck is taking and bringing the 30 bags of rice. Now law says, section 34 says, where the buyer is standing on the other end, A is sending his trucks for delivery of bags. On the other end, buyer B is standing. Now the moment 10 bags of truck came, buyer accepted that. 30 bags are still on their way. Law will say once the buyer has accepted the part delivery of the goods, it will be assumed as whole of the goods have been delivered. Delivery of part of the goods in progress means it is in the progress. The other goods are coming. Has the effect for the purpose of passing the property as if whole of the goods have been delivered. Okay, so it is very important to understand there is a difference between part delivery and installment delivery. By the end of the chapter, I will explain you what is installment delivery. Right now, just understand what is part delivery of goods. So where you have sent the goods in different trucks and the buyer has accepted the goods in part that have come in one truck, that means he has accepted whole of the goods. But where the part goods with an intention of severing it does not operate as a delivery of remainder. It says where the goods are mixed, where it is non-severable, then it is a different story. Then it will not be considered as the other goods have also been delivered. Then you still have to wait for the whole delivery of the goods. But if such a condition is satisfied where the goods are coming in different parts, buyer is bound to accept them as well. Let us read example 21. Certain goods were lying at wharf. What is wharf? I told you when the goods are loaded in the ship, before loading the goods in the ship, there is a wharfinger who is standing over there. They are put in certain drawers. So certain drawers are made before the goods are loaded in the ship. They are kept in the wharfs. And from that wharfs only, they were sold in a lot, means a kind of auction sale is being made. So the seller instructed the wharfinger to deliver the goods to the buyer who has paid for him, and the buyer accepted and took away part of the goods. So he's just trying to tell you this is an entire story where the wharf has been involved and the goods are lying in a lot. You can simply understand that the seller had told the wharfinger that these are the goods which are lying in certain drawers. You have to sell it to the buyer, and when the buyer makes you the payment, give the goods to them. So he sold the goods to the buyer, and buyer accepted and took few of the goods, and the remaining goods are still lying over there. So he said, once you have told the buyer that you have made me the payment, please take your goods, it will be considered that whole of the goods have been delivered. Now it is buyer's headache to come and take the goods. It is not seller's responsibility. Whose responsibility it will become? So examiner can ask you, once the part delivery has been made, then the buyer becomes responsible for the remaining goods also. Because buyer has to apply for delivery. It says seller is not bound to deliver. So A made a contract with the buyer that I will deliver you the goods by 10th February. So today is 10th February. Now it is buyer's responsibility to ring up and ask the seller whether the goods have come or where are they, why you have still not delivered me the goods. It is buyer's responsibility to ask for the delivery of goods. Now, place of delivery is very, very interesting. It says he has divided it into different sections. Place of delivery means where the delivery of goods should take place. Whether it is for the buyer to take the possession of the goods or seller to send them to a buyer, it depends upon the contract that they have made. So it says whether the buyer has to come and take the goods or seller has to send the goods. All these things depends upon the contract that we have signed with them. Internet problem in between. I hope I'm audible. Okay. So it depends upon the contract that the parties have made, on the basis of which they have agreed. That is what will decide how the delivery has to be made and how the payment, how the goods will be taken. Apart from the contract means if we have not decided anything, means our contract was silent about the delivery of the goods. Then there are two things. Number one is the case of sale of goods. Number two is the case of agreement to sell the goods. Where the goods are sold, they should be delivered at a place at which they were at the time of sale. However, if it is an agreement to sell, then they should be delivered at a place at which they were at the time of agreement to sell. Very interesting. It says A came to B's shop and he said, I want to buy certain goods. He said, okay, fine. Come by 5th of March and you can take the goods. So now this is the place where an agreement to sell has been made. So now delivery of goods shall be made by A to B at the same place where they have made an agreement to sell. If A had certain goods lying in his godown and he sells those goods to Mr. B, then the delivery of the goods shall be made at the same place, that is the godown, where the goods were lying at the time the contract was made. Now the third one is even more interesting. It says if the goods were not in existence, then ma'am, where should we deliver them? Then where they are manufactured or produced, Delivery should be made at that place only. This is what section 36 tells you. As a man of ordinary prudence, you decide something that, okay, please deliver me the goods at my house, then he should deliver the goods to your house. Buyer said that I will come to your shop and I will buy the goods, then that will happen. These are the three cases where contract is silent. You have not written anything. Then if the goods were not only into existence, then when they are manufactured and produced, you should deliver them at that very place. And what is the time period for delivering the goods? It says they should be delivered. Seller is bound to send the goods, but no time has been fixed. Suppose I am the seller and you have ordered from Amazon a few books for reading. So you said that Helene ma'am keeps telling us that we should involve ourselves into hobbies, we should remain positive. So why not? It's a weekend and after the classes in the evening when I'm free, I should read a nice storybook which motivates me, which gives me cultivate nice positive thoughts in my mind. I was thinking to share and talk something related to manifestations also because I know you all enjoy when I try to motivate you a bit. So if time permits me, I will try to talk on that as well today, that how manifestations really help you to complete your CA degree as well as to achieve whatever you want to do in your life. So I will try to find time for that as well. But as of now, let's come back to this example. You went to Amazon and you placed an order for reading this books out. So now where the seller is going to tell you, give you these kind of books and you have no time has been fixed and you have ordered the books from the seller. So what will you do? So he says seller is bound to send them within a reasonable time. So can this happen that Amazon guys comes and rings at my doorstep at 1 a.m. midnight and say that, ma'am, your goods are ready, please take them? Am I bound to accept the goods? No, I am not bound to accept the goods. I am not at all bound to accept the goods. Why? Because it is not a reasonable time. So why don't you tell me, students, what is the meaning of reasonable time? What is the meaning of reasonable times? What is the meaning of reasonable time? You all have to tell me. Yes. Reasonable time is a question of fact. That is very interesting. Definitely, Renuka. I'll try sharing about my CA journey also, but let me just complete this. Preeti says it's working hours, very good. If it is not a reasonable time, if it is not working hours, then it says reasonable time has to be decided. So generally, the reasonable time is, we can say the working hours 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or maybe 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. can be considered as the reasonable working hours. But if no time has been fixed, then he says what is the reasonable time. So you should not disturb someone at midnight, or if you are ringing up at 3 a.m. in the morning, that is also not acceptable. So the time has to be very reasonable whenever you are delivering the goods. One thing which one has to be very careful. So examiner can ask you such kind of questions, that the delivery of the goods was to be made and no time was fixed and he came at 12 midnight, he's giving the goods. Is the buyer bound to accept the goods? So you will say section 36 becomes applicable if no time has been fixed, reasonable time has to be given, which generally is referring to your reasonable time, that is the your physical working hours when you should be present. So in that case, he's not bound to accept the goods because obviously it's midnight, person is sleeping. It is not his duty to go and take the goods. Is that clear? Now, goods lying in possession of a third person. Again, constructive delivery. When they are in third person, how the delivery will be made? If the other party acknowledges to the buyer that he holds the goods on his behalf. So under point number 6, you can simply write down refer constructive delivery. It is the same case. So you can simply write down refer constructive delivery of goods. And what is the timing for tendering the delivery? Tendering means performing the delivery. What time you have to perform the delivery of goods, how you have to complete the performance. Again, it should be made at a reasonable hour. So point number 5 and point number 7 are interrelated. Both of them talk about reasonable time, that is the working day, and reasonable hour, that is the hour of the day, should also be very important. So for example, if I'm working in a US firm and if I'm in India and I'm working with a US firm, they have my working hours, say from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. So if I have this kind of working hours, in such a case, if I'm awake whole night and somebody comes at 1 a.m. and gives me the delivery at my office during my office hours, then it is acceptable. This is the meaning of question of fact. It says you have to prove in law whether this reasonable hour was acceptable for you or not. Maybe during the daytime I'm sleeping, I'm not available because I work at night. So then reasonable hour will be for my that late hours time. So every case you have to prove what is acceptable and what is not. Okay, very good. All those who have given wonderful answers for reasonable time and reasonable working hours. Great. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sahana is saying. So see, there can be different working hours and different reasonable time for others. Anusa says this is not a reasonable time for me. So it depends upon fact to fact. Somebody is saying 7 in the morning, 9 in the morning and 7 in the evening. So that's good. So different reasonable times we have. Yes, Anuj, constructive delivery is when the other person acknowledges, then you have to take the delivery from that person. He's holding the goods on your behalf. Yes, Miss Divya, you can call it as the case of bailment because whenever the person is having your possession of goods, he should take care as bail. Okay, let's quickly finish this off now, children. Expenses for delivery of the goods. Now, for expenses, you can simply write down this line that I'm going to make you write down. All the expenses till the point of delivering the goods are to be borne by whom? The seller or buyer, you tell me. So there are two kinds of expenses for delivery till the stage of bringing the goods in a deliverable state. The expenses are to be borne by whom? Answer me, students, who will bear the expenditures? Very nice, beautiful answers. It shall be borne by the seller. And Tameshwari, why are you saying buyer? All the expenditures till the goods are put in the deliverable state are to be borne by the seller. And after this point, once goods have been delivered, expenses to be borne by the buyer. So this is how you have to learn till the point the goods have been brought to the deliverable state, seller is bearing, and after the goods have been sold, buyer is responsible and he has to bear all the expenses. All right, good, wonderful. Mr. Chetan, Sanya, Anuj, Nancy, Neha, Priyanka, Nanda, Tameshwari, Dev, Joa, Kinjal, everyone has given the correct answers. Very good. Now, delivery of wrong quantity. Again, you have to quickly solve these answers. Delivery of wrong quantity. So, children, A was supposed to send you 100 bags of rice to Mr. B. And he sent you 80 bags of rice. What will you do? You will have two options when the lesser quantity has been sent. Either you reject whole of the quantity because you have not got the one that you accepted, or you accept and you pay for the lesser quantity. You will pay at the contract rate. So where the goods contracted are less than what you wanted and they have delivered is less than what you contracted, then you have two options. Either you reject whole of the goods or you pay for the lesser quantity at the contract rate. Suppose the contract rate for 100 bags was 1,000. So now 1,000 was for 100. So 10 per bag if you're paying, now you'll pay 800 rupees to him, not 1,000 for. Okay. So what happens if he has delivered your larger quantity? So you have asked for 100 bags of rice and he's giving you 110. Now you can do three things. Either you reject the whole of it or you accept the whole of it 110 and you pay at the rate of 110 for that. That is 1,000 per 100 you were having. Now you pay for 110. Or you can do the third thing. You accept 100 bags and you send back the excess 10 bags. So that is very important to understand where the wrong quantity has been given to you, delivered, whether it is a lesser quantity or it is a larger quantity. So if it is a lesser quantity, then you have to do the first subsection 1, what it says, section 37. And if it's a larger quantity, then subsection 2 tells you three options. Either accept the whole or reject the whole, or accept the amount which was contracted and reject the other part. And if the contracts are mixed with the contracts which are in different description, remember the basmati rice, my favorite example, where the long grains have got mixed up with the short grains, then the contract is not divisible. Here you can simply either accept the whole of goods or you can directly reject the goods. You don't have any other choice in such a case. So that is what we have to remember. All right, so let's quickly read example number 22. Yes, Mr. Kaira, you can ask your doubts for the answers if you want to ask something. After this example, I will give you time for the doubts also, children. Let me just complete this example 22. A agrees to sell 100 quintals to B at a rate of 1,000 per quintal and A delivered 1,100 quintals. So B has three options, either reject the whole or accept 1,000 and reject the balance, or accept whole of them and pay for the contract of sale. So subsection 2 is applicable in example number 20. Now, what is installment deliveries? Installment delivery means that the buyer is not bound to accept the delivery in installments. One is part delivery, where section 35 says the trucks are coming one by one and you have agreed, okay, one truck I've accepted. That means now you're bound to accept the delivery of goods coming in the other trucks also. But what happened? There was a seller A and he contracted for 1,000 bags of sugar with Mr. B, first quality sugar. But then he said, I have sent you 500 bags of sugar, but right now I'm not having 500 bags. I will send you later in the another month. Buyer can reject the goods. He is not bound to accept the delivery of goods in installment. This is what section 38 clearly tells you, that it is not your duty. It is seller's duty to either deliver the goods completely, or if you have agreed for the part delivery, then section 35 will be applicable. But out of his own choice, he cannot start sending the goods by installments. So there was a sale of 100 tons of paper to be shipped in November. The seller shipped 80 tons in November and 20 in December. So what was the agreement? They have decided to ship it in November only, but now he's sending it in December. Buyer was entitled to reject whole of the 100 tons. Why? Because it is an installment delivery. I'm not bound to accept the installment delivery at any cost. It is seller mistake. He should not have made the contract if the goods were not fully available. And delivery to carrier, remember, no unconditional appropriation. Once you have delivered the goods to the carrier, who becomes the owner? Buyer becomes the owner. Prima facie, buyer will be liable for all the risk he deems to be the delivery of goods has been made to buyer. So 11th point ke aage, please write down, refer section 23 subsection 2, unconditional appropriation of goods. Okay, you will remember it like this. And now the last point, deterioration. During transit, deterioration means perishing. If the goods got damaged while transporting, if the goods have got destroyed, they have got damaged, or certain kind of things have happened to them and they are no longer looking fine, then what will happen if deteriorated? If the goods have got destroyed, then what will you do? Now, sometimes the goods, when they are delivered at a distance place, means sometimes the goods are coming by a ship. Sometimes the goods are coming by air. And they can obviously get deteriorate due to accidental course of transit. Who will have to bear it? Seller agrees to deliver the goods at his own risk, but still this liability will fall on the buyer. Section 40 says anything happening during the transportation of the goods, any deterioration means any damaging of the goods happening on the way during transporting of the goods, buyer will have to bear the loss. So P sold Q certain quantity of iron rods. Iron rods bhejni thi usne. By proper vessel means by ship he's sending the goods, and the goods got rusted before it reached the buyer. The rust was so minimal that it was not making the goods unmerchantable. तो बच्चे जो आयरन रॉड्स होती है ना, उनपे अगर बहुत कुछ डैमेज हो जाए ना, पानी लग जाए, कुछ हो जाए, तो उस पे जंक लग जाती है, रस्ट लग जाती है. तो वो इतनी कम थी वो रस्ट कि गुड्स वर स्टिल यूजेबल, मतलब मर्केंटेबल थे, वो खराब नहीं हुए थे, दे वर स्टिल मर्केंटेबल. सो सच काइंड ऑफ deterioration, Q was bound to accept the goods. It will have to fall, the risk always falls on the buyer. Buyer is not bound to reject the goods. Buyer must accept the goods. Why? Because the goods have not become mercantable, unmercantable. But if you have delivered the apples, which were all, rotten apples and they all were destroyed, then it is seller's mistake. Buyer can reject the goods. But any such deterioration which is not making them unmercantable, then the buyer is responsible to accept the goods. And also the buyer should be given right to examine the goods. Remember the case where you're selling by sample? We always say that the buyer should examine the goods. What does it mean? Rule of caveat emptor. Buyer should be examining the goods. If buyer has not examined the goods, then he should accept the goods, whatever he has bought it. It is his responsibility to examine the goods, but if seller is not allowing him to examine the goods, then the buyer can reject the goods. He will not take your goods only. So 41 simply talks about buyer's right to examine the goods. Now, this is the last two sections, 42 and 43, and with this, we will come to an end of our chapter. So let me quickly take these sections from my presentation. So in May 2019, also a non-owner can convey a better title. What will you write in such a kind of question? All the cases that we have discussed under section 27 to 30, all the cases have to be written. If you get the non-owner can pass the title, yes, ma'am, he can pass the title. You simply have to write the cases that we have discussed in the first half of the class, all these exceptions. Delivery we have already done. These are short notes. I will be uploading the presentation. You can refer to the brief notes from my presentation. Now, rules regarding acceptance of delivery. So in the starting of the chapter, I told you today I will be delivering you the goods and it is your responsibility as a buyer to accept those goods. So number one, when he intimates to the seller, remember if the courier guys comes and you sign the paper that yes, fine, we have accepted the goods. So this is how you show the acceptance for the goods. So happy she has gotten receiving her courier. This is what you students do nowadays, online purchases and you accept the delivery. Or you do something which is inconsistent. Like, for example, he took the delivery of wheat without proper inspection and resold it. So we have done these kind of descriptive questions examples also, where A sold the goods by sample to B and B sold it to C and D found the defect. So what will happen in that case? You cannot return the goods later on. So if you have taken the goods, you have not inspected them and subsequently you have sold it, now acceptance of delivery has set to take place. Section 42, 43 will become applicable. And when you retain the goods after lapse of reasonable time, remember the goods sent on approval and return basis, where you have bought the mobile phone and you said that, okay, I will tell you if I want to return it or I want to buy it, but then you do not return the goods or you do not intimate the buyer. Then buyer will be held responsible for such goods. Also, if any loss happens because of your neglect or refusal, that will also be borne by the buyer himself. So these are the different modes of delivery. This question paper I wanted to do with you, but I think we have really done lots and lots of concepts today. So I give you 2-3 minutes for your queries. In the next session, I'm going to take your test of that question, okay? Yes, Preeti Singh, you can give the reference of caveat emptor. Miss Madhu Namdev, you have to do all the chapters. You cannot leave a single chapter, but I would request you, as and when you are doing the chapters with me, keep making the notes and keep revising what we are doing right now. Okay, children. Done for the day. I give you 2 minutes for your doubts now. Mr. Tushar Kapoor, what do you want to ask? Anil Yadav, the notes are already uploaded. You can go to the ICAI website. In the notes or assignments, you can just check them. Mr. Ramod says, thank you, ma'am. No queries. Thank you, Divya. Thank you so much, children. Those who have understood clearly, well done. Yes, Miss Sahana, where he is refusing and rejecting the goods, he has to give the reasons as well. Mr. Suresh, why we shouldn't claim for the damages? So where the damages occur in section 37, you're asking. Okay, let me take you to 37 once again. Mr. Suresh has asked for a query. So for the wrong quantity, he's telling you that where any wrong quantity has been delivered, he gives you about the rules regarding delivery of goods. You have suffered any damages, then again you go back to section 73 of Indian Contract Act, Hadley versus Baxendale. You prove him that you have suffered ordinary damages or special damages because of this default, then you can recover those damages also. All right, that is absolutely correct. Mr. Ardhendu Biswas, in that case, you can choose which quantity you want to accept and pay for the goods according to that contract price. Miss Neha Yadav, you keep learning the examples and then gradually you will be able to understand how the questions come from them. Tambeshwari is asking difference between section 34 and section 38. So 38 simply tells you about the installment deliveries. I just now told you, children, and 34 and 35 tells you about the part delivery. So where part delivery, where you have said to the buyer that I'm going to send you the goods in different trucks and please accept them, then the buyer is bound to accept it. But where you have not told such things, you was going to sell the goods in November, 100 tons were coming, but out of your own choice, you send only 80 and 20 you're sending in December, then buyer is not bound to accept it. Okay, good, Miss Riti Bharti. If you're understanding, that's great. Mr. Dev Kumar, if you have chosen for English paper, then keep revising, keep talking in English, try to understand when I teach you in English, and definitely you will do good in your paper also. All right, students. Thank you, Kansha, Preeti, Kinjal, Neha, all of you. Miss Muskan says, no doubt, because you have taught nicely. Thank you. So in the next class, your homework is you all have to revise what we have done till now. Okay, Miss Anuza, I will just take this out. So you have to revise and also try going through all the MCQs from the study material also. We'll just do 1 or 2 question papers and then we will move to the unpaid sellers. Okay, section 29 and 30, Anusa, the difference between both of them is one is talking about the voidable contract and section 30 and 1 and subsection 2 refer to the notes that we have written down today. If the seller is in the position, then he can sell the goods. If the buyer is holding the position, he can sell the goods further. All right. Thank you so much, students. And I'm glad your all concepts are clear. See you all on Tuesday. You have 2 days. Please revise all your work that we have done in the class. Thank you so much.